Luis Enrique Martinez's Paris Saint-Germain still cannot win in Europe and is in a really delicate moment in terms of standings, currently out of the playoff that grants access to the round of 16. Bayern won, Vincent Kompany's team won with a goal from Kim Min-jae, and we will see everything this match has left, which has been quite interesting and very beautiful between Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain. Let's get to it. What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome to Mundo Maldini. Welcome to a new Champions Night. What we love most in this world, European match nights. You will have a lot of videos on the channel. And of course, we remind you that you also have Mundo Maldini Global to listen to us speak in Arabic, Hindi, French, English. Well, it's truly crazy. Check out the secondary channel where you will find all this and much more in multiple languages in case you have a friend away from home to send it to. Let's go with the 11 players for this Champions match between Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain, which, as I said, puts Luis Enrique's team in a really almost critical situation in terms of standings. Neuer in goal for Bayern Munich, Upamecano, Min-jae. It was a very solid match from both centre-backs, especially Min-jae, who scored that goal and is gradually resembling a bit more of that Min-jae, although still far from the one we saw in the Scudetto that Napoli won a couple of seasons ago. Alphonso Davies on the left. Konrad Laimer has opted for him instead of Guerrero, as he has been doing lately. They alternate quite a bit. Kimmich in the midfield alongside Goretzka, a player who seemed like he was going to leave Bayern Munich this summer, has ultimately stayed, and the injuries to Pavlovic and other players who were ahead of him in the rotation, including Paglinha, have given him this second chance at Bayern, and he hasn't had a bad match. Up front, Coman, Musiala, and Sané. A tremendous, spectacular match from Kingsley Coman, who has been a headache for Achraf Hakimi, who usually has a spectacular run with freedom across the attack front. But today, he hasn't done so much to protect himself on that right side, which is why Luis Enrique has also placed 4 midfielders in play. Sané on the right, as I mentioned. Harry Kane up front, whose match hasn't been the brightest, has had to contend with 2 very high-level centre-backs like William Pacho and Marquinhos. A match of bringing down balls, a match of holding the ball so that the wingers could appear a little. He hasn't had a bad match, but far from what we know Harry Kane can deliver under normal conditions. How did they attack? How does this Bayern Munich attack? Well, many times what Laimer does is gain depth on this right side, and the one who drops back is Joshua Kimmich, who is the engine of this Bayern Munich. The problem Bayern has had today, and why they haven't fully dominated at times during the match, is that Fabian was very close to Joshua Kimmich, which has prevented Bayern from building such clean play from the back that we see in the Bundesliga, and that we've also seen in several Champions League matches. But as I said, Laimer gaining depth, especially on this left side. When Bayern Munich sees that Kimmich won't be able to generate play, won't be able to have that fluidity from the back, what they do is launch their 2 wingers, who are true speedsters, Coman, who has been a headache, and Leroy Sané. We have seen a Bayern that at times has been more direct than Paris Saint-Germain, which has placed greater importance on wing play, and especially Coman, who has been the main source of danger in attack alongside Musiala, who in the second half, with Dembélé's expulsion, has done pretty much what he wanted, on the field against Bayern Munich's defense. Well, it has clearly been a 4-4 formation with Coman here and Musiala, with Kane pressing in that first line of defensive pressure. In the second half, Michael Ollis, Gnabry, Müller, and Sasha came in, but none of them, if we had to give grades, would deserve a rating. Perhaps the most active has been Michael Ollis, who was not a starter today. Let's move on to PSG because there is much to discuss about Luis Enrique's team. To start, the goalkeeper Safonov, a Russian player who recently arrived from Krasnodar this past summer. As you know, I personally am not too convinced by Donnarumma as a goalkeeper, but today Safonov made a glaring mistake, for which PSG lost this match. It is true that he later had good interventions, but they still haven't found a goalkeeper who honestly and truly guarantees success on big Champions League nights. Marquinhos, Hakimi, Pacho, and Mendes. If you have watched many PSG matches, and we have seen them here on the channel, what Luis Enrique's team usually does is close with 3, but today he changed the 3 that were closing during ball progression because today it wasn't Hakimi who was making the run. YT. Evidently, when you have players in front like Davis and Coman, that double wing is very dangerous to have that kind of run. So it was Nuno Mendes, who on this side, since Laimer is not a fullback, who breaks outside much, has been a bit more the one who has been able to gain a bit more momentum. And the closing during ball progression for PSG was like this, with 3 false center-backs. In the case of Achraf Hakimi, in front formed a line of 4, with Vitinha often closing. You know that Vitinha is everywhere in this Paris Saint-Germain, and the Portuguese player João Neves and Fabian, I say, were very attentive to Kimmich at all times. It was very effective individual marking in the first half. In the second half, with Dembélé's expulsion, not having that extra player in the two-man press with Barcola, allowed Kimmich to float much more and be much freer. Neves and Vitinha had a very good match, especially Vitinha, who always performs very well, and Zaire Emery, who, well, had a bit of a supporting role throughout the midfield. Houston also contained the advances of Davis and Coman a lot, although I must say that Coman was, for me, the best or the most dangerous player in the match. Marco Asensio in the second half, along with Gonzalo Ramos and also Kang and Quinley. Of the three, the only one who has been able to do something useful in the match has been Kang in the 51st minute with some intervention, but Paris Saint-Germain has been very true to their style. Bayern Munich has also been so. They are two teams that press very high, and that is what we saw in the first half. Bayern Munich's start to the match has been as it should be for a German team. At home, in their stadium, with their fans. It has been overwhelming, pressing very high against PSG. The first 10 to 15 minutes have been overwhelming from Vincent Kompany's team. This chance is for Musiala, which was one of the clearest. It was the first save made by Safonov, who, I must say, had a match with many commendable interventions, despite that error that ultimately condemns Paris Saint-Germain. But the first part of the match was very much Bayern Munich, pressing very high. And since Paris Saint-Germain was also pressing high, Bayern Munich was causing real havoc with the speedsters. Here is another shot of another intervention by Safonov. In this case, a shot from Leroy Sané. Also, again, as I said, Bayern Munich constantly played a lot from the inside out, taking advantage of the little space Raf had and being a bit more withdrawn so that Coman could intervene time and again, focusing on finding space, and a lot of wing play from a Bayern Munich that, as I said, was not finding fluidity in ball progression, very intelligently compensated by Vincent Kompany, and also because I think he had no other choice with deep balls towards his two wingers. Good interventions from Safonov, and the first 15 to 20 minutes were very Bavarian in color, so Kingsley Coman had another chance. At that point, Bayern Munich could have even scored the second goal. But little by little, Vitinha started to get into the match, and especially I think it is very important in ball progression that Fabian, who did not have a very flashy game, was causing many problems for Kimmich with losses and steals from the Andalusian player himself. João Neves and Zaire Emery were also pressing very well high for Paris Saint-Germain, which is something they have worked on a lot. And in that first half, the last stretch from the 20th minute on, they managed to do quite well, and the match became much more even. As I said, these are two teams that play very similarly, and when PSG has been able to coordinate that pressure well, they have had goal-scoring opportunities, like this chance we see on screen that Ousmane Dembélé had, which Manuel Neuer spectacularly saved. By the way, Manuel Neuer had a strange game. It's the ball. You can tell that the man is already 38 years old, and he did some things with the ball that if you watch the replay, he took much more risk than necessary in actions where you think, if he loses this ball, it's almost certainly a goal. But, well, that's what you get with this type of goalkeeper. Vincent Kompany has done well in this second stretch in the first half where Paris Saint-Germain leveled things a bit, but without accuracy in front of goal, the endemic problem that this Luis Enrique's team has. Look here at the chance again for Ousmane Dembélé, which Manuel Neuer saved, in what was a possible equalizer for Paris Saint-Germain, at a moment when it seemed they were starting to gain ground against a Bayern that continued to press high and was especially leaving errors in ball progression due to the good pressure from the Parisian team. And when Bayern was having the worst time, not that it was a series from PSG, because I believe the clearest chances have always been from the Bavarians, this glaring error from the Russian goalkeeper Safonov occurs, a ball to the near post, he comes out very poorly. For me, there is no foul, absolutely nothing, and it falls perfectly for Kim Min-jae to score into an empty net, the only goal of the match. There is the shot and the picture that could condemn Paris Saint-Germain to not advance in this round of the Champions League playoffs. We still don't know, but it certainly leaves them in a very difficult situation. That is one of the pictures, but another is this one, which is the expulsion of Ousmane Dembélé, because in the second half, with Bayern having the ball, PSG was once again causing a lot of damage. With their high pressing, very organized and creating a lot of havoc, so that Vincent Kompany's team could not have fluidity. But Ousmane Dembélé appears in the picture again, as in so many other occasions. Today, it is true that his match was not entirely bad, but I also have to say that it doesn't seem to me like a tackle worthy of a second yellow card. If it is a second yellow, it does not go to VAR, remember, because it does not review second yellows. And for me, it is not a violent tackle. He is not going in with his studs first, but I understand that he interprets it as cutting a counterattack. Now, we can assess that cutting it off in the opposing area is not a very clear counterattack action, right? For me, the second yellow card is perhaps a bit exaggerated. Melee is sent off, and from there, Bayern could have easily scored 2 or 3 goals against PSG. Here we see another angle of Kim Ilia's goal, and as I said, in the second half, following that expulsion, Bayern Munich had several chances with Gel Paris and Saint-Germain playing with one less player. In short, I killed another chance with Kingsley Coman getting away from a grave, one from Olise inside the area that Safonov also saves, and a hit from Jamal Musiala. I think PSG has been brave. They had a setup as they usually do, but in the end, the clear chances, even 11 against 11, were for Bayern Munich. So I don't think the victory of the Munich team is unjust. I think it is a team that adapts better to different contexts than Paris Saint-Germain. And at the moment, Dembélé was sent off. Logically, PSG struggled a lot, and Bayern Munich could have easily scored a couple of goals. And to finish, as always, with the friends from Flash Score, look, 2-21 expected goals for Bayern Munich. As you can see, what I mentioned, the clear goal chances were made by the Munich team, 57% possession for the Bavarian side, and 43% for Paris Saint-Germain. 18 shots to 11, 7 on target to 3 in the first half, clearly showing the clearer chances for Bayern, and in the second half a bit more balanced, but with Musiala's hit, there could have been another goal. The victory of Bayern Munich is deserved in my opinion. I think PSG, as I said, has been brave, but they still have many problems. Defining a goal is a huge challenge for them. They struggle immensely to define, and Bayern Munich, which is ultimately more adaptable in that sense, already knew how to adjust to a scheme where, if they don't have quality in ball progression, they play down the wings as they have players for that. Bayern Munich is a better team man for man than Paris Saint-Germain, and Luis Enrique's team is in a very delicate situation. And that's it for the video about Bayern Munich 1, Paris Saint-Germain 0. A hug to the friends of Mundo Maldini. We continue on the channel. Yusan Tao Tao Tato.